Success? Oh, hi. Glad you're here. I'm glad to be with you. I just wanted to do, what do they call it, a vlog? Just more of a, I did a bunch of videos about my life last year, so I figured I should keep it updated, recap every year maybe, because that was for my 40th birthday. Now I'm 41, and it's been one hell of a year. Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up. So last year, my son's mother unlawfully took him, and I couldn't see him or speak to him for 6 weeks. The roughest 6 weeks of my life, without a doubt. Long story short, it took a long time, a lot of money, and a family investigator to plead to a judge for emergency orders to get my son back, and then we had to acquire police assistance. But we got my son back, and things have been pretty indefinite ever since. He's been with me full time. That was 3 days before my 40th birthday, so my 40th birthday was everything I wanted, to spend it with my son. He was 10 when she took him. He turned 11. He was 11 when I got him back, and he's now 12. But it hasn't made it any easier. So since then, it took some adjusting, and he went through a lot of traumatic stuff and lies and manipulation and mental and emotional abuse from his mother, but didn't take long for him to get back to normal, and now he's doing fantastic. He's doing great in school, and he's in middle school. He's in 7th grade now, IAI. So yeah, things have been great. Him and I just hanging out, having a ball. He's my world. So yeah, just work and school and this and that. Nothing too crazy. But like I said, this situation has been indefinite, and as messed up as the situation was, and the damage she did do, and the horrible things she told him and said to him and did to him, it's been a long road of his mental health. But to be completely honest, I haven't really been able to focus on or even acknowledge my own mental health and how it's affected me. Not just, those 6 weeks, obviously, but the adjustment since then. I mean, the first decade of his life, we were co-parenting, 50-50. So sure, I was a single dad, but, there's a single parent and then there's a single full-time parent. Because a lot of single parents might be, like, single, but they still have the other parent there 50% of the time, or a little more, a little less, what have you. So they're not doing it on their own. Other people have a support group, which I had my parents there for a while, but they're getting older, and what my father's been going through is a whole nother thing. But my son, adjusting through these things and being happy as a clam now. What I went through was rough. And once I got him back, it's, as it has been since the moment he was conceived, it's been all about him. But sometimes especially as a loving, caring parent, we're so focused on others or our children or what someone else is going through, which is admittedly much worse than what we might be going through, but we still neglect our own thoughts, feelings, and emotions, which isn't good to do. In fact, there's been a few moments, where it's crept up on me and I've had to face them, but I shrug them off pretty quick because I'm a grown up. That's what you do. So this is actually a rare moment that I'm acknowledging this. So forgive me if it tends to creep up on me. My son is happy and he's been with me 24/7. So now I'm a single dad, yes. But on top of that, I had to adjust from being a single co parent to a single full time parent, which has been rough. I mean, yeah, it's the greatest thing in the world to have my son 24/7, but it's also an adjustment for someone like me who's contrary to the apartment full of Lego that's been accumulated over decades. I'm not the richest man in the world. I'm what, lower middle class probably? I work paycheck to paycheck. I barely keep a roof over my head and food on the table and bills paid, yada yada yada. Little bit of disposable income, sure. But to suddenly go from having to take care of your child half the time to taking care of them full time is it's not just difficult and a struggle, but more of that guilt creeps in of I wish I could do better. He deserves better. And on top of that, like I said, he's doing great and he's had the option of reconnecting with his mother anytime he wants. And I, on an extremely regular basis, regardless of what she did or how I feel about her, I remind him frequently that his mother loves him, his mother misses him, and she is thinking about him. I mean, I don't want him. It's what's rough with for me. It's like the situation now is what's best for him, yes, but it really bothers me every moment of every single day that my son's mother did this to him and that because of it he's essentially without a mother right now. He didn't deserve this. He deserved all the love in the world from everyone. So, albeit by his choice currently, and he wants to slowly reintegrate his relationship with her, but it's been over a year, what, almost 15 months since my son has spoken to his mother. Whether that's his choice or not, or due to the situation, doesn't change that fact. And that can't be easy on him. And it's not easy on me. It bothers me every day. Not only that, but I know how hard it was for me for those 6 weeks. And it's been 15 months for her since she's spoken to her child. And regardless of how I feel about her because of what she did to him and me and him, it still breaks my heart that this woman currently can't talk to her son and hasn't seen him in over a year. So that's what 41 has been like. Oh no, wait, I just turned 40. That's how 40 was. It's been an adjustment year of yes, hooray, getting my son back. Yes, hooray, my son's doing great. But there's still that looming. He lost his mother in a sense. Maybe not permanently, but for long enough for it to have some kind of permanent psychological damage, if you will, for lack of a better term. And it's just made it more difficult for me to not only be doing this on my own, but knowing that A, my son is without a mother, and B, my son's mother is without her child. This isn't how I wanted any of this. Like I said, I want what's best for him. But these are pretty hardcore struggles that I haven't been allowed to address to myself. Or anyone else for that matter, obviously. So it's been rough, but I'm getting through it day by day, right? That's how you do it. But once I got him back, and adjusting to the full time of it all, because I had for a decade, I've been making my work schedule, luckily enough, having that opportunity, to where I worked when he was with his mother, 4 10-hour days. And then when I had him, I didn't work at all. Because in my mind, I was still losing him half the time. So the half that I had him needed to be 100% with him, or I would essentially be losing, 75% of the time with my child. So now having him full time, I still stick with the same schedule, but it was an adjustment because I wasn't used to having my child while working, so I had to find child care, which obviously I can't afford. So I had my parents to help with that for a while, but what they're going through just made it more of a difficult thing and just became unreliable. My parents had a house that I grew up in since, I would say from, let's see, that house would have been from 4th grade. So, like the age of 9 till my mid-30s. That house was my home and littered with memories. I lost my virginity in that house, amongst a billion other amazing, life-changing events and memories I had in that house. Then I found out they were going to sell it. I didn't like that. And I was going to come over and go through their stuff before they moved and threw certain things away and collect any sentimental things or things I had memories and attachments to. And also take one last look around this home of mine that for the rest of my life will probably be what I think of when I think of home and the place I lived in longer than any other. But next thing I knew, when I offered to help them move, I couldn't get a hold of them. And when I finally did get a hold of them, it was too late. They said they had to get out of there within a couple of days, and it's already done. The house was gone. I know this is stupid and crazy to say, but if I'm being honest, it felt like a death. It felt like I lost something suddenly that I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to. I was going to take pictures so that I had, when I got older, I could still have, oh, yep, there's that room, and then memories would flood back, that kind of thing. But I wasn't able to recover any possessions, take pictures, or have one last walkthrough to say goodbye to my childhood home, or adolescent home, teenage home, young adulthood home, adulthood home. I mean, my son and I were living there less than a decade ago. Half a decade, 5 years, whatever it was. Anyway, it had a strong effect on me that I wasn't expecting. That gone was that house. And then on top of that, I come to discover that they were pretty much conned. You get those random phone calls from whomever, or text messages, or emails. We want to buy your house, blah, 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 and then they give you this great offer. It was kind of like that. They were looking to sell the house, but next thing they knew, they had such a fantastic offer that they just had to take it, and it had to be done quickly. Like I said, they're getting older. Yes, they were taken advantage of. And they were pretty much tricked into selling their house to the wrong people. Lost it. And due to other things, this apartment they moved into, again, emails, texts, we have your package, pick it up. Oh, but you're going to have to pay this much. You give them your card info. Next thing you know, you're having your money sucked out of your account without you even knowing. That's what happened to my mother because she was very much so a shopaholic when it came to things like QVC. So then they had to, hire a lawyer. They had to go through this lawsuit that fell through the cracks because nobody can prove anything. That's how scams work. So they lost their house, and then they essentially lost all the money they got for the house. And then the apartment they had just moved into ended up unable for them to afford. So they had to move again. These people were in the same house for almost 3 decades. Over 3 decades, maybe? Whatever it was. And then suddenly had to move twice in the span of a few months. But then, they were my babysitters at their new apartment, which became more of a struggle the older they were. My mother doesn't really leave the house, and my father is leaving the house too much, constantly, running errands for her and whatnot. But next thing we knew, my father became less reliable, wouldn't answer his phone, wouldn't be there, wouldn't pick us up as scheduled, yada, yada, yada. And then Flynn was about to get to the age where he could, be at home anyway. But I guess essentially what I'm saying is I lost the only help I had of suddenly being this single full-time dad. Which had a lot to do with the fact that my father started getting some very heavy, rapidly onset dementia. And in recent months, I've noticed him, for lack of a better term, slipping away. I think the last time I saw him was on Father's Day, June 2024. And he would just get confused. He wanted my help with all of his tech stuff, but they were all simple things. He said his phone wasn't, what reason he wasn't answering his phone is because his phone didn't work. I said, what's wrong with your phone? It won't turn on anymore. He was just pressing the power button. So I showed him. I said, here you go, your phone's good, it turned on. How'd you do that? I held the power button. Things like that. And then for the longest time he wouldn't answer his phone. He said, my phone won't work. When I hit the green thing, when it's ringing, it doesn't answer. And I would say, you have to swipe it. But we've already gotten back to the point where I can't get a hold of him. If I call or text, I get no response. But on that Father's Day, the last time I saw him, I remember the moment. This is one of my greatest fears for this to ever happen to me. He looked at me dead in the eye and said, but how's Paul doing? Where's Paul? When's Paul gonna come over? I'm Paul. I do look a lot like my brother. Maybe he was getting jumbled and thought I was him. But it wasn't easy. And that's the thing. I noticed really rapidly with him slipping away and deteriorating. The first thing I noticed is how frustrating it was for me. And this is going out to anybody who's dealt with family members going through a situation, because this is what I've experienced. And I imagine it's the same for others, and maybe not so much for some. But the first thing I experienced was frustration. Like, what's wrong with him? Why can't he just do these simple things? Why is he forgetting simple things? And then treating him like he was a moron. Then I realized this, put myself in check. You know what? It's not his fault. You're just going to have to deal with it and bear with him and try to help him. So I do that. But I see how frustrating it is for him. It's like, I imagine, it's like, when you have a brain fart? You suddenly can't think of something. It just slips away. How frustrating that is, because you should know, but you just don't. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's what I started seeing in him. And so I was like, okay. But then the other thing I noticed was it's frustrating for them going through it. Yes, absolutely. It's worse for them, don't get me wrong. But for their loved ones, we don't really get to express how frustrating it is for us. It's like watching your loved ones slowly die before your eyes while they're still alive. You know you're losing them. You know you're losing bits and pieces every time you see them. And you know it's just a matter of time before they're gone. And that's hard. I've never experienced the death of someone really close to me. And I dread it because I know it'll be one of my parents. But now it's getting to the point where I imagine that day will be sooner than later. And I don't know how I'm going to take it. Is it easier for it to happen suddenly, and then it's happened and you know it and you move on? Or is it easier if it happens slowly and you get to accept it before it is final? I guess that's a journey I'm currently on. So it's been a year, but all of my struggles have been internal, and I haven't really been able to externalize them. So thanks, especially if you're watching this for some unknown reason. This made me feel better to vent. Because once, at the end of my 40th year, a couple weeks before, like a week and a half before my 41st birthday, I got to not only knock off something on my bucket list, but it was the top of my bucket list. And it involved, I still can't believe it. It involved my now 12-year-old son and I together going to Disney World. But that is another story. Okie dokie.